I need to be honest with you, something is happening right now in the food industry that most preppers are completely missing. And when I tell you what I discovered 3 months ago by talking to someone who works in food manufacturing distribution, you are going to understand why I immediately went out and doubled my stockpile of these specific items. Major food corporations are quietly discontinuing products that have been on shelves for decades, not because they are unpopular, not because they are unsafe, but because the profit margins are too thin in our current economic climate, and the items they are cutting, they happen to be some of the absolute best prepping foods you have never thought about. I'm talking about foods with incredible shelf life, packed with nutrition, dirt cheap, and most preppers are not even looking at them. Number 9 on this list is being phased out by 3 major brands right now, and when it's gone, you are going to be kicking yourself if you did not grab it while you still could. Look, if you want more content like this that actually tells you what is really happening, instead of the same recycled prepper advice everyone else is pushing, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what I'm about to share with you is not coming from some blog post or prepper forum. This is coming from real conversations with people inside the industry who are watching this happen in real time. Let's get into it. Food number 1 is canned evaporated milk. Okay, first up, and this one hit me hard because I grew up with this stuff. Canned evaporated milk. Now, I know you are thinking that is just old-fashioned milk in a can, but here is what is happening behind the scenes. 3 major dairies have already discontinued their evaporated milk lines in the past 18 months. The ones still making it have cut production by almost 40%. I found this out from a dairy distributor I met at a farmer's market who has been in the business for 30 years. He told me straight up that evaporated milk is on the chopping block because younger consumers do not buy it anymore. The profit is not there. Companies are shifting to higher margin products like fancy oat milk and almond milk. But here is what those companies do not understand, and what preppers absolutely need to know. Evaporated milk is an absolute beast for long-term storage. Unopened cans last 1 to 2 years easily, and I have personally used cans that were 3 years old with 0 issues. The stuff is shelf-stable, needs no refrigeration, and provides legitimate dairy nutrition. Last spring, we had a week-long power outage after a major storm. All the fresh milk in the fridge went bad within 2 days. My kids were losing their minds because they could not have milk with their cereal. But I had 24 cans of evaporated milk in the pantry. I diluted it with water, 1 part milk to 1 part water, and boom, we had milk again. They could not even tell the difference. 1 cup of evaporated milk, when reconstituted, gives you the same calcium and protein as regular milk, but it has been heat-treated in a way that kills bacteria and makes it shelf-stable. You get vitamin D, vitamin A, riboflavin, and phosphorus. And here is the kicker. It is incredibly versatile. You can use it straight from the can for creamy soups and sauces. You can dilute it for drinking. You can even whip it into a cream substitute if you chill it first. I use it in my coffee, in mashed potatoes, in mac and cheese, and in baking. My wife makes this incredible fudge with it every Christmas. The price right now is still reasonable. I am seeing cans for about $1.50 each at most grocery stores. But here is what I noticed last month. My local store, which used to stock 4 full shelves of evaporated milk, now has 1 shelf, and half the time it is sold out. The writing is on the wall. My strategy is simple. Every time I go to the store, I grab 6 cans. I rotate them by date, oldest in front, newest in back. I have built up a stockpile of about 100 cans over the past few months. That is 100 emergency dairy servings that do not require electricity or refrigeration. Compare that to fresh milk, which lasts maybe a week, or powdered milk, which honestly tastes pretty bad unless you really doctor it up. In a long-term grid-down scenario, dairy is going to be one of the first things to disappear. Cows need to be milked daily. Milk needs to be refrigerated and transported cold. The whole supply chain is incredibly fragile. But canned evaporated milk? It sits there in your pantry, ready to go for years. If you have kids, elderly family members, or anyone with high calcium needs, this should be at the top of your list right now before it is completely phased out. Food number 2 is canned butter. All right, number 2 is something I only discovered 2 years ago, and I am still mad that nobody told me about it sooner. Canned butter. Now, I am not talking about those expensive freeze-dried butter powders or ghee, although ghee is great. I am talking about actual real butter that comes in a can. It is shelf-stable for years without refrigeration. Here is the story behind this. Canned butter was originally developed in New Zealand for export. They needed a way to ship butter around the world without it going bad. So they figured out how to seal real butter in cans using a specific process that keeps it fresh for an incredibly long time. The brand that most preppers know is Red Feather, but there are a few others. And here is the problem. Production is extremely limited. These are not mass-produced like regular butter. They are made in small batches, and when they sell out, it can take months to restock. I learned this the hard way last year. I was planning to order 20 cans for my stockpile. I waited 2 weeks to pull the trigger, and when I went back to order, they were completely sold out everywhere. It took 4 months before I could find them again. Now, you might be wondering why this matters when you can just store regular butter in the freezer. Great question. Here is the reality. In a long-term power outage, your freezer is useless after about 48 hours, unless you have a massive generator and unlimited fuel, which most of us do not. But canned butter sits on your shelf at room temperature for 5 years or more. Some preppers claim they have used cans that are 10 years old with no issues. Let me tell you about my first experience with it. I opened a can that had been sitting in my pantry for 18 months. I was honestly nervous. I thought it was going to be gross or rancid, but when I popped the top, it looked exactly like regular butter. I spread it on toast, and my wife and I did a blind taste test against fresh butter from the fridge. We literally could not tell the difference. It was rich, creamy, and tasted like real butter because it is real butter. Here is the nutrition and why it matters. Butter is pure fat, which means it is incredibly calorie-dense. 1 tablespoon has about 100 calories. In a survival situation where you are rationing food and burning extra calories from stress and manual labor, fat is your best friend. Your body needs fat for energy, for warmth, for brain function, and for absorbing fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. Most prepper foods are dangerously low in fat. Rice has basically none. Beans have a tiny bit. Even most freeze-dried meals are low-fat because fat does not freeze-dry well. But with canned butter in your stockpile, you have got a reliable fat source that will last for years. I add a tablespoon to rice while it is cooking. It transforms bland survival food into something that actually tastes good. I use it to make cornbread in my Dutch oven. I spread it on homemade bread. I even use it to grease pans when I am cooking over a fire. Now, here is the downside. It is not cheap. A 12-ounce can usually runs about $8 to $10. That is significantly more expensive than regular butter. But think about what you are paying for. You are paying for shelf stability, for convenience, and for peace of mind knowing that you have real butter available even if the power is out for months. I keep 24 cans in my stockpile. That is 18 pounds of butter that requires zero refrigeration. And here is my insider tip. Do not wait to buy this. Seriously. If you see it available online, grab it immediately. The production runs are limited, and when preppers catch on to something, it sells out fast. I have seen canned butter go out of stock for 6 months at a time. Food number 3 is dried porcini mushrooms. Number 3 is going to surprise you. Dried porcini mushrooms. This is not about being fancy or gourmet. This is about serious nutrition and flavor in a collapse scenario. European suppliers who have been exporting dried porcini to the United States for decades are cutting back production massively. Climate change is affecting mushroom yields in the forest where they grow. Labor costs are skyrocketing. Import regulations are getting tighter. A contact who works in specialty food imports told me that 3 major suppliers have stopped shipping to the U.S. entirely. The remaining suppliers have raised prices by 30% in the past year alone. Once these supply chains collapse, they do not come back easily. Dried porcini mushrooms are one of the most concentrated sources of umami flavor you can store. Umami is that savory, meaty taste that makes food satisfying. In a long-term survival situation where you are eating bland rice and beans for weeks, umami is what keeps you sane. But it is not just about flavor. Dried porcini are shockingly nutritious. They are loaded with protein, fiber, vitamin D, B vitamins, and minerals like selenium, copper, and potassium. 1 ounce has about 7 grams of protein, and you only need a tiny amount to transform a meal. My grandfather, who grew up in Italy during World War II, told me his grandmother always had dried mushrooms hidden away. She would take just a handful, soak them in water, and use them to make a soup or sauce that made their rationed bread and polenta actually taste like food. I tried this during a camping trip last year. I brought just 4 ounces of dried porcini. Every night I would rehydrate a small handful in warm water for about 20 minutes, chop them up, and add them to whatever I was cooking. The difference was night and day. Meals went from boring survival food to something I actually looked forward to eating. Dried porcini last for years when stored in an airtight container in a cool, dark place. I keep mine in mason jars with oxygen absorbers. They take up almost no space, and the shelf life is easily 3 to 5 years. The price is tricky. You are looking at about $30 to $40 per pound, but you do not need a pound. Even 8 ounces will last you months because you use so little at a time. Compare that to freeze-dried meals at $12 a pouch. For the price of 3 freeze-dried meals, you can buy enough dried porcini to elevate 50 stockpile meals. Another pro tip: save the soaking liquid. That water becomes intensely flavored mushroom broth. Use it to cook your rice or add it to soups. It is liquid gold for flavor. In a real crisis, food monotony destroys morale. People get depressed. They stop caring. But if you can serve a meal that actually tastes good, it changes everything. Food number 4 is canned tomato paste in tubes. Number 4 is sneaky. Tomato paste in tubes, not the little cans. I am talking about tomato paste that comes in a toothpaste-style tube. This is a European thing, specifically Italian, and it is being discontinued in the U.S. because Americans do not buy it. Here is why the tube format is a game changer for preppers. When you open a can of tomato paste, you have to use it quickly or it goes bad. In a grid-down scenario with no refrigeration, this is a huge problem. But the tube? You squeeze out exactly what you need, cap it, and it stays good for months. The tube prevents air from getting in, which means the paste does not oxidize or spoil. I discovered this 3 years ago at an Italian import store. I used a little bit for a recipe, and then the tube just sat in my pantry for 4 months. When I finally opened it again, the paste was perfect. No mold, no discoloration. Tomato paste is incredibly concentrated. Just 1 tablespoon is the equivalent of an entire tomato in terms of lycopene, vitamins, and flavor. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant that supports your immune system. In a long-term crisis where fresh vegetables are unavailable, this is critical. And the flavor. Tomato paste is the secret ingredient that makes cheap food taste expensive. Add a tablespoon to your rice while it is cooking. Stir it into canned beans. The umami and acidity wake up your taste buds. During a 2-week power outage last winter, my family was living off our stockpile. By day 9, everyone was tired of the same meals. I pulled out a tube of tomato paste and made a simple rice dish with canned vegetables. My kids asked if we had ordered takeout. That is the power of concentrated flavor. Tubes of tomato paste are being discontinued in the U.S. I have checked 6 grocery stores in my area, and only 1 still carries them. The importer told me that American demand is too low to justify shipping costs. Once the current inventory sells out, it is gone. If you can find these tubes, buy as many as you can afford. I personally have 30 tubes in my stockpile. Each tube is about $3, so I spent $90 total. But that is 30 months of concentrated tomato flavor that takes up almost no space and requires no refrigeration even after opening. Food number 5 is MSG. Number 5 is going to be controversial, and I do not care. MSG, monosodium glutamate. And before you freak out about health concerns, let me hit you with some actual science. MSG has been studied for over 50 years, and every major health organization, including the FDA, has confirmed it is safe. The whole MSG scare from the 1960s has been completely debunked. But here is what matters for preppers. MSG is pure umami in crystal form. It is the most efficient way to make bland food taste incredible. And major food companies are quietly reformulating products to remove MSG because of public perception, even though there is no scientific reason to do so. Here is what this means for you. MSG is cheap, lasts forever, and is one of the best investments you can make for your stockpile. A 1-pound container costs about $5 and will last you literally years. I learned about this from a Chinese friend whose grandmother survived famine in the 1960s. She told me that her grandmother always kept MSG hidden away because it could make tree bark soup taste like chicken broth. That sounds extreme, but the principle is real. MSG amplifies flavor. It makes your brain think food is richer and more satisfying than it actually is. Let me give you a real example. I made 2 pots of plain white rice. In one pot, I added nothing. In the other, I added a 1/4 teaspoon of MSG. I gave both to my family without telling them which was which. Everyone said the MSG rice tasted better, more savory, more satisfying. Now imagine you are 3 weeks into a crisis. You are eating rice and beans every single day. You are bored, you are tired, morale is low, but you have MSG in your pantry. Suddenly, every meal tastes better. You feel more satisfied. You stay mentally sharp. MSG triggers the umami receptors on your tongue, which signal to your brain that you are eating protein-rich food. Your body releases satisfaction hormones, and you feel full faster. This means you can actually eat less food and still feel satisfied. In a rationing situation, that is huge. Storage is dead simple. Keep it in an airtight container. MSG does not go bad. It is a mineral salt. I keep a 1-pound container in my pantry and a backup in my long-term storage. Total cost, $10. I add a pinch to soups, rice, pasta, canned vegetables, beans, pretty much everything. The rule of thumb is about a 1/4 teaspoon per serving. You do not need much. The flavor transformation is immediate. And here is the insider secret. Professional chefs use MSG all the time. They just do not advertise it because customers have been brainwashed into thinking it is bad. So, while the health food crowd is scared of MSG and companies are removing it from products to appease them, smart preppers are quietly stocking up on one of the most effective and affordable flavor enhancers ever created. Food number 6 is whole nutmegs. Number 6 is old school, whole nutmegs, not ground nutmeg. Whole. Ground spices lose their flavor within 6 months, but whole spices, when stored properly, last for years. Nutmeg is one of the most versatile spices you can stockpile. It works in sweet dishes, savory dishes, drinks, and even has mild medicinal properties. But whole nutmegs are disappearing from store shelves because modern consumers want convenience. They want pre-ground spices in shaker bottles. My local grocery store used to carry whole nutmeg. Now it is gone. The manager said they discontinued it due to low sales. One whole nutmeg, about the size of an acorn, can be grated into enough ground nutmeg for 30 or 40 uses, and the flavor is incomparably better than pre-ground. When you grate fresh nutmeg, the essential oils are released right at that moment. The aroma is intense. Nutmeg has mild sedative and calming properties. In a high-stress survival situation where anxiety is through the roof and sleep is difficult, a small amount of nutmeg in warm milk or tea can help calm nerves and promote rest. Now, a warning. Nutmeg in large doses can be toxic. I am talking about eating multiple whole nutmegs at once, which nobody would do because it tastes terrible in large amounts. But used properly in small amounts for cooking, it is perfectly safe. Keep whole nutmegs in an airtight container in a cool, dark place. They will last 5 years or more. I keep about 20 whole nutmegs in a mason jar. It cost me about $12 total. Grate a little fresh nutmeg into oatmeal with a bit of cinnamon and dried fruit. It transforms boring oatmeal into a comforting breakfast. Or add a pinch to mashed potatoes, creamy soups, or even coffee. If you can find whole nutmegs, grab them now, and grab other whole spices like cinnamon sticks, whole cloves, and cardamom pods. They are all being phased out, and once they are gone, you will be stuck with flavorless powder. Food number 7 is anchovy paste in tubes. Number 7 is going to sound weird. Anchovy paste in tubes. Most people think anchovies are gross, but hear me out. You are not eating spoonfuls of anchovy paste. Used correctly in tiny amounts, anchovy paste is a secret weapon for adding deep, savory flavor without making it taste fishy. Anchovies are loaded with glutamates, the same compounds that make MSG effective. When you add a small amount to a dish, it amplifies all the other flavors. Professional chefs have known this forever. From a survival perspective, anchovy paste is a nutritional powerhouse. It is packed with omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin B12, selenium, and protein. 1 teaspoon provides nutrients that are hard to get from shelf-stable foods, and it comes in a tube. You squeeze out what you need, cap it, and it stays good for months without refrigeration. I discovered this 3 years ago when I was trying to make my rice and beans less boring. I added maybe a 1/4 teaspoon to a pot of bean soup. I did not tell my wife. She tasted it and said it was the best soup I had ever made. She had no idea there were anchovies in it. That is the magic. Anchovy paste in tubes is being discontinued by several major brands. Low demand. Americans do not cook with it. A tube costs about $4 and lasts for months. I keep 6 tubes in my stockpile. That is $24 for a flavor and nutrition boost that will last years. I add a tiny squeeze to soups, stews, pasta sauces, or scrambled eggs. It adds depth and richness that makes cheap food taste expensive. Food number 8 is canned mackerel. Number 8 is something I ignored for years before I finally woke up. Canned mackerel. Not canned tuna. Mackerel. Here is why this is critical right now. Tuna is overfished. Prices are skyrocketing. Several major brands have reduced their product lines. Meanwhile, mackerel is abundant, sustainable, and dirt cheap. But it is being discontinued in many stores because Americans do not buy it. We are conditioned to buy tuna. I stumbled onto mackerel 2 years ago when my usual canned tuna was sold out. I grabbed a can out of desperation. When I opened it, I was shocked. It tasted better than tuna. Richer, more flavorful, meatier. And when I looked at the nutrition label, I almost fell over. 1 can of mackerel has more omega-3s than 3 cans of tuna. It has more vitamin D, more B12, more selenium, and it is cheaper. A can of tuna costs about $2.50 now. A can of mackerel costs $1.50. Better nutrition for less money. From a prepping perspective, canned mackerel is perfect. It is shelf-stable for years. It requires no preparation. You can eat it straight from the can. 1 can provides about 40 grams of complete protein. I have watched canned mackerel disappear from store shelves over the past year. My local grocery store used to stock it. Now they do not. They replaced it with more tuna. My strategy is to stock up now. I personally have 50 cans in my stockpile. That is 50 high-protein, nutrient-dense meals for about $75. Compare that to freeze-dried meals at $12 each. Keep the cans in a cool, dry place. Rotate by date. Canned fish easily lasts 3 to 5 years. I mix it with mayo and eat it on crackers. I add it to pasta. I make fish cakes by mixing it with mashed potatoes. The omega-3s in mackerel support brain function, reduce inflammation, and boost mood. If you see canned mackerel at your store, grab it. Do not wait. Food number 9 is palm sugar. Number 9 is something I never even heard of until last year, and now it is one of my top stockpile items. Palm sugar. Not regular white sugar, not brown sugar, palm sugar. Here is what makes it different. Palm sugar is made from the sap of palm trees. It has a lower glycemic index than regular sugar, which means it does not spike your blood sugar as dramatically. It also contains trace minerals like potassium, zinc, and iron that are completely absent in refined white sugar. But here is the prepping angle. Palm sugar is traditionally sold in hard blocks or dense cakes. In this form, it lasts indefinitely. I am talking decades. It does not absorb moisture. It does not clump. It does not go bad. Compare that to regular white sugar, which can harden if moisture gets in, or brown sugar, which dries out. Palm sugar is imported, mostly from Southeast Asia. Import costs are skyrocketing. Several importers have stopped bringing it into the US because the profit margins are too thin. The few brands still importing it have raised prices by 40% in the past year. I learned about palm sugar from a Filipino coworker. She brought me a small block to try, and I was hooked. The flavor is incredible, rich, caramel-like, complex. I started using it in my coffee, in baking, and in cooking. I bought a 5-pound block for about $20. That block has been sitting in my pantry for over a year, and it is still perfect. Hard as a rock, but you just shave off what you need with a knife or grater. From a survival perspective, sugar is not just about sweetness. It is about calories and morale. In a high-stress survival scenario, your body burns through calories fast. Sugar provides quick energy, and psychologically, having something sweet can be a huge morale booster. I have 3 5-pound blocks of palm sugar stored in sealed containers. That is 15 pounds for about $60. It takes up minimal space, will last forever, and provides both nutrition and comfort. If you can find palm sugar at an Asian grocery store or online, grab it now. Look, I know this list is unconventional. These are not the typical beans and rice that every prepper talks about. But that is exactly the point. Everyone is focused on the same basic items while these incredible foods are quietly disappearing from shelves. The companies making these products do not care about preppers. They care about profit margins. And when something is not selling to mainstream consumers, it gets discontinued. Period. My challenge to you is this. Pick 3 items from this list and start building your stockpile this week, not next month, not when you have more money, this week. Because I am telling you, 6 months from now, half of these items are going to be significantly harder to find or completely gone. And when that happens, you are going to wish you had listened. If this video helped you, hit that like button and share it with your prepper friends. And if you want more insider information like this, subscribe and turn on notifications, because I am committed to bringing you the real information that nobody else is talking about. Stay prepared out there.